Okay, we're going to open up with one song. The song that came to mind is, if any guys remember this, I have a song that Jesus gave me. It was sent from heaven above. Sea of love, in my heart there rings a melody in heaven's harmony, and it was in my heart there rings a melody of love. Amen. Anyone remember the other verse? I remember some of. We just sang. It was something to be mine. I can't think of it, but yeah, we used to sing it all the time. Okay. Anyone have another song in mind? Okay. I have the joy, 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 joy down in my heart. Where? Down in my heart. Where? Down in my heart. I have the joy, 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 joy down in my heart. Down in my heart to stay. And I'm so happy, so very happy. I have the love of Jesus in my heart, oh, in my heart. And I'm so happy, so very happy. I have the love of Jesus in my heart. Who doesn't like it 'cause it's down in my heart? Where? Down in my heart. Where? Down in my heart. I know the doesn't like it, but it's down in my heart. Down in my heart to stay. And I'm so happy, so very happy. I have the love of Jesus in my heart, oh, in my heart. And I'm so happy, so very happy. I have the love of Jesus in my heart. Thank you. Okay, let us bow our heads. Let us say a prayer. Our most graciously Heavenly Father, Lord, we want to thank you for another blessed Sabbath day. Lord, I ask that you will be with the ones that are on the way and be with the ones that couldn't make it. I ask that you will help us to get something out of today, Lord. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Thank you. So the one thing we do need to do our aim motto pledge. Does anyone have a scripture that they can think of that deals with mental health, anxiety, depression, something from the Bible?
One of my favorite Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. If you know it, say it with me. Trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not unto thy own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy path.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Let us just stand for a moment and do our aim motto pledge. Someone, you had a text? Yeah. Okay. Come up, Alicia, and then while you all are standing for aim motto pledge. Okay, aim, Advent message to all the world and this generation. Motto, love of Christ constraineth us. Pledge, loving the Lord Jesus. I promise to take an active part in the work of the Adventist Youth Society, doing what I can to help others and to finish the work of the gospel in all the world. Is our flag over there? Okay, I couldn't see it on the other side. Okay, all right. You may be seated. Alicia is going to do her scripture.
I have a memory text. It's John 14:27, and it's peace I leave with you, my peace I give unto you, not as the world giveth, give I unto you. Let not your heart be troubled, and neither let it be afraid. John 14:27.
Amen. So as you all know, we've been talking now for a couple of weeks. Actually, we've been talking more, but we've been talking intentionally for a couple of weeks about mental health. This is Mental Health Awareness Month. So we've had a lot of different things that happen in the church. Last year, we had 8 deaths, either in the church or associated with the church, from people. And then the society, the world today just has so much going on. I mean, it- it's even more so now than ever. We have some anxiety. And we read the text. And the one thing that we do know, we should go to God in prayer and we should trust. But we do know that God put mental health professionals here to help us. We know that we pray about our diabetes, but we also go to do what? Get help for it. And so I have been asked several times, could we get someone to come? We do want to, I'm going to let Jeremiah introduce himself and what he does, and then he's going to get started. But we do want to start different sessions and do different programs here to help us because we have all ages. We have people in all spheres, and we have concluded that we do need some different programs for our people. We're talking about coming alive in 2025. But before we can get out and do stuff with other people, we need to do what? First, work on ourselves. So this is just the jump off to other programs that other departments, family life, maybe AY, health, are going to bring you. So I'm going to stop right now. Jeremiah was here before 4, and he's been patiently waiting. So I'm going to let him come up and tell you who he is, whatever he wants to tell you about himself, and get started.
Thank you, ma'am. So my brother is an evangelist in the Michigan area, so I kind of getting a little bit of feel of what he gets to do every night. So a little uncomfortable for me, but I'll definitely do my best. Are y'all able to see the PowerPoint? Oh. But yes, my name is Jeremiah Albarico. I'm a licensed mental health counselor in Florida and work with SMA Healthcare. I'm the senior clinical director for Marion County. So a little bit of the agenda, I want to talk a little bit about SMA services for Marion County, because whenever I'm out in the community talking to people, they don't realize how big we are and how much we actually do in the community. And then I kind of want to talk about little mental health signs and symptoms, some of the basic diagnosis, substance use, suicidality, self-harm, and then a little bit more about loss and grief. Okay? Yeah, definitely. So July 21, we merged. The centers disappeared, and SMA Healthcare, which primarily it was out of Daytona, which is our headquarters. It's now 6 counties. We took over Citrus County and Marion County. So since then, we've been trying to restructure, hire good people, better serve our community. And since then, we've been expanding very quickly. I always like to tell people I don't feel that it's ego expansion. It's the community is coming to us with needs, and we're trying our best to fill those gaps and provide those services. So we are the largest behavioral not-for-profit in Marion County. And when I say behavioral, that's kind of the umbrella term for mental health and substance use. It falls under the term of behavioral health. We have a lot of services. So within Marion County, we have a crisis stabilization unit for adults and kids. We have 2 detox adult facilities. We have an outpatient, which is for therapy. We address mental health, substance use. We do both kids, adolescents, and adults. We also have a residential program. On the 60th is our main campuses. That's where majority of our services are. So on 60th, we have a residential program. So primary diagnosis of substance use. Almost all of them also have a mental health diagnosis, but it has to be a primary diagnosis of substance use. We have the residential program, which is now 6 months plus. So they can stay up to us for 9 months to a year if the team feels clinically they need that much help. But standard is about 6 months for discharge. And that is, it's a lockdown facility for safety purposes. But again, if they want to leave, they can leave anytime. It's a 24/7 program, so we do groups every single day, one-on-one therapy at least once a week. When they're kind of working towards discharge, we like to do family therapy, have the families come in, do some family therapy, kind of reconnect those services because they're in a treatment safe area, but they're about to go back to their home. So we want to kind of bridge the gaps, get them reconnected with their family and their loved ones, because you don't want to just throw them back into the environment after they've been in the safe, protected. We do have medication-assisted treatment, which is actually at our Beacon Point location, literally right down the road. So medication-assisted treatment is an evidence-based practice for people with opioid and alcohol dependency and misuse. So not everybody can cold turkey just stop drugs when they want to. So what medication-assisted treatment is, MAT-meds is what we kind of call it, is it's medications that help them get off that dependency. So, people that have been using opioids, for example, for years and years and years, you can't just get off of it. You can detox, yes, but then the mental part takes, for some, can take weeks to months. So with that, we do have medications, Sublocade, Vivitrol, which helps block the receptors, so they're no longer able also for like alcohol, Vivitrol, it stops them from having like that buzz and satisfactory feeling of drinking. Now they're still intaking alcohol, it's just kind of blocking the receptors to where they're not getting that high that they want. And then for Vivitrol example, it actually makes them nauseous when they're drinking alcohol. So they've kind of gone all those years of getting that positive reinforcement of feeling the high, feeling the pleasure of the substance use, to now it's kind of giving negative consequences for their substance use. And then combining that with therapy is very effective. So medication alone, on average, is 30% effective. Combining it with therapy, you're looking at 70% effective. So anything substance use related over 20% is considered a high success rate. So 30% MAT alone is very good. I know some people are like 30%, that's it. But you're talking about people who have been on drugs and alcohol for years and years and years. Yes, that's a very good success rate. And then when you combine it with that talk therapy one-on-one with a master's level professional, 70%, personally, I think is amazing results. But we do have that at Beacon Point facility right down the road. Thanks to Marion County Hospital District, they actually fund all of that for us. And again, being a not-for-profit, about 70% of our funding is state funding. So we're able to assist people underinsured, no insurance at all, no income. So every individual that comes in does a financial assessment, and then we can determine what their copay is going to be. So some people come in, can get therapy, can get medication, can get all these services, $0. Some might have a $5, $10, $15, $20, and we do take insurance as well. So we're here to serve the community, and if you don't have money, that shouldn't be a barrier to stop you from getting the help you need. So we do have the 60th location, we have the Beacon Point location. We also have the mobile crisis response team. That is 24/7. We service the entire county of Marion County. So from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. every single day of the week, we can respond in person. So people that are in crisis, emotionally charged situations, we want to kind of divert them from unnecessary psychiatric or Baker Act. Well, Baker Act is a 3-day psychiatric hold. So somebody that's maybe threat to self or others or can't take care of themselves. Law enforcement or doctors or mental health professionals can do a Baker Act, and then they go into a crisis stabilization unit, and we can have them up there for 3 days until we feel they're safe to themselves and others, and we release them. So with the crisis team, we want to divert unnecessary Baker Acts. So law enforcement a lot of times they're not mental health professionals, but they're put in a situation where, they're firefighters, they're EMS, they're lawyers, and we're also putting on them that now they are mental health professionals, and they're not. So having this crisis team is just another great way of getting there. We can take care of it, de-escalate, connect them to service, and we have, again, a high success rate of diverting people from unnecessary Baker Acts in our community. Because when COP is on scene, they have to determine, is this person safe that I can leave and go home tonight and go to bed, and that they're not going to hurt themselves or others, or do I have to put them in a safe place where they're going to see a doctor and get them proper treatment? So that's why a lot of times law enforcement does have to do a Baker Act. So by us getting in there, we can assess them, like I said, talk to them, and tell the cops, do we feel this is a Baker Act or not? And we do have a great relationship with the OPD and the sheriff, with their officers and deputies, so they will actually call us sometimes and run Baker Act criteria by us because they're not sure either. So I think we have a great relationship, and I'm really proud of that when they call us and they're just like, hey, we need help. What can we do? Is this a Baker Act? And we'll actually do 3-day follow-ups for every single person that we have contact with, because there's definitely a big gap in services from people that are Baker acted, and then once they discharge from our inpatient, the MRT team will follow up with them for as long as need be until we connect them to services so they don't come back into ERs and back into our crisis stabilization unit. We do have community case management and prevention services. So, I mean, that's a very broad term. We can help people find employment, finding housing, getting connected to resources, helping them get stable in the community. And for most of those services, they're funded by the state. So again, individuals aren't paying out of pocket for this stuff. We're helping them get connected and established to within their community. We also have a shelter care. So there's actually not many shelter cares in Florida. We actually have, I think the closest one around here is in, I think, the Tampa area or Jacksonville. So a shelter care is a peer respite for adolescents that we have been temporarily pulled out of home. DCF might be trying to find a foster home replacement for them. They can come to our facility. It's non-clinical, but we have staff 24/7. Take them to their doctor appointments, take them to school, whatever appointments they need. So they're able to get in a safe place instead of being kind of put into the system. And they can be with us for days to weeks. I think it was a year or two ago, we actually had 2 brothers that stayed with us for 9 months. And we approved it, and the DCF was funding us. And what it was the mother kind of had went through her charges, was able to get those taken care of, found stable housing, got stable employment, and we didn't want to separate the 2 brothers, and DCF didn't either. So they were funding us, and we took care of them, and they were with us for 9 months. And then mother, stable house, had a 2-bedroom apartment, and we were able to drive them over to their house and get them back with their mother. So a great program. Florida needs a lot more of them. And then we also have a community action team. We call it a CAT team. So kids that are, contact with criminal justice system, lots of Baker Acts, have criminal charges, or getting kicked out of school, or having behavioral issues, they can get connected to our CAT team. So it's 11 to 21 years old. So we have a full wraparound team. We have a doctor, we have a nurse, we have a mental health professional, we have a case manager, and a peer specialist. And they all work with this kid and the family to try to get them the therapy they need. It's very intensive. What resources do they need? And try to keep them in the community and keep them connected with their family and not have to, EJJ, go in the criminal justice system. Sometimes they're kind of on the verge of possibly being removed from the family, so we want to try to keep them with them. And again, that's a state-funded program, so they don't pay nothing out of pocket. So our main services at 60th, our outpatient, that is our address. So we have medication management, so mental health medication management. We have the individual therapy, we do group therapy, peer services, psychosocial rehab. So that is individuals with serious mental illness and intellectual disabilities. They teach them life skills. So how to build a resume, how to interview. They take them to health and fitness courses, teach them how to cook, how to clean, how to make beds, how to wash their clothes. And we actually, with funding, last month opened our new building that we just renovated. So it has like an awesome kitchen in it, washer and dryer, all in the same building. So it's very homey. So it makes them feel like they're in a home environment. And that's Monday through Friday. And like I said, we can have up to 15 clients and teach them those life skills that they need to be, try to live independently. We have the case management, and we also have an amnesty program. It's a very unique program. I've never heard of another one until I came here. So in the center's days, their CEO had a handshake with Chief Graham because Chief Graham felt that individuals with substance use shouldn't necessarily be incarcerated if they're trying to find help. So they had an agreement and a program that individuals can go to the law enforcement, they can call law enforcement, they can walk up to a cop and forfeit their substance. And then that officer or deputy will bring them to our adult detox and we'll get them right into treatment and therapy. About 2 years ago, thanks to the county, we got funding. So we now have a coordinator who pretty much will hold their hand through the whole process. So she'll get them either, in the detox, residential, outpatient. Do they need help getting into therapy, paying for their house, finding employment? So we've had great success with that program. And her success rate was last year, I think around 74%. And if y'all remember, anything above 20-25 substance use is great. 74, 75%, again, I think is absolutely amazing. And none of those services are charged to the client. And then at our Beacon Point, we have our MAC clinic. Like I was saying, if you don't have insurance, we have a no wrong door policy, so no one gets turned away. We'll do whatever we have to be able to take care of them. And also at the 60th location, we do have a third-party pharmacy. So we're able to work with them, discounted medications, and we're able to do a financial assessment with them. So again, they can try to get services with very little to no copay with us. Same thing with the pharmacy, general pharmacy. Try to get them as much discounted medication as possible. And those are the main medications we use. And I did want to talk a little bit about our peer program. Again, I think another amazing program. About 2+ years ago, the governor created what's called the CORE Initiative, Coordinated Opioid Response Team. And Marion County was, if I believe so, was the first effective, fully running CORE program in Florida. And part of the CORE program is people with opioid or any type of substance overdose. EMS will go and respond, and when they're taking them to the emergency room, they will actually radio our peer specialist, which a peer specialist is someone either mental health or substance use with lived experience. So they have their own mental health diagnosis. They've had drug use. They've been through the treatment, and they're 2+ years clean and sober and in recovery. So they're kind of able to use those personal experience to tell people, hey, I've been through this, and try to motivate them and get them into services. So EMS will call us, our peers 24/7, actually go into the hospitals, the emergency room, to those people that just overdosed and can try to connect them to services, how we can help. Nothing is charged to the individual. They can actually give them rides, whatever need be. So an individual who just overdosed, if you think about it, probably the perfect time to try to tell them, hey, you're probably not having the best life decisions right now. This is how we can help you. And we have a great success rate. We've actually had other counties come and look at our CORE model, thanks to our partnership with paramedicine program, firefighter, and with the emergency departments and the hospital district. So again, just another amazing program, and all of that is funded, so nothing is charged to the individual. Yes, ma'am. Well, if you got questions anytime, stick your hand up, because we're going to cover a lot. Yeah, if y'all got questions anytime, just stick your hand up. Do you have a question? Mhm. Definitely good question. So the Beacon Point, we have what's called an assessment center, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, no appointment needed. People just walk in. We'll do a full clinical assessment on you. It's take about 1.5 to 2 hours. And then we actually have blocks in our doctor's schedules for the morning and the afternoon. So I always recommend earlier the better, but you will get screened, assessed, and see the doctor. We'll try our best within 1 day. We actually have a pharmacy runner, and they will run back, get the medications, bring them back to the Beacon Point location. So, like I said, if you come earlier, you're going to get everything you needed within 1 day. And also the Beacon Point location, we have therapy, we have the peer services, we have the detox program. Beacon Point has a 1 to 2 month residential program. We have mental health medication. We have the medication-assisted treatment medication. There's also now a dental bus, and the health department is also going to be bringing a bus for immunizations, healthcare checks, and Heart of Florida on Wednesdays afternoons does primary care as well. So literally Beacon Point, you're looking at almost checking every box you need as far as all of your medical and mental health services. And there's also CASA, which is the Domestic Violence Shelter in Marion County. They have an outreach office there. So again, same hours, anybody can walk in. I need help. They're going to screen them and try their best to get them immediately into their DV shelter or other services. And as far as our main campus location, you can walk in and make an appointment, but we don't have a walk-in clinic for our outpatient. But I always recommend, and I got some brochures and stuff I can leave, is just call our number and call our operator. They'll get you set up. They'll do a brief screening over the phone. So they'll create your whole medical chart, get all your information, and be able to tell you some of the copays and stuff like that. Yes, ma'am.
Doctors, is a psychiatrist psychology? Is it a psychiatrist that you have?
So our
At your Beacon?
medications, that would be a psych nurse practitioner. And then our medical director is a psychiatrist for all Marion County. But all the ones prescribing the medications are a psych nurse practitioner. Yes, ma'am. Any other questions? All right, this is just a little brief overview for the residential programs. So actually, right now on a main campus on 60th, we have two buildings. One is men, one is women. So that's your numbers you're looking at right now. In the middle of May, at Marion Oaks, we're actually opening up a brand new women's only treatment facility. So it's going to have a capacity of up to 45 beds. And we're also going to be able to accept pregnant, newborns, and up to 1+ years. So these are women that are trying to do the right thing and get treatment for their substance use. And now they can stay and keep their babies while they're in treatment. Because normally most programs, they might separate them, or they might send them to Orlando, Jacksonville, Gainesville, where they have similar programs. But when you do that, you're kind of pulling that individual out of their environment, out of their community, away from their family and their support system. So I think that, again, this is just another amazing program we have in Marion County. Thanks to state funding, thanks to Marion County Hospital District for funding, we're able to pretty much double our women's capacity. And once the women move over to Marion Oaks, the two buildings we have at 60th, we're actually going to start increasing our men because there is a higher demand for men in residential. So at 60th, we're going to have a new capacity of 45 for men, and Marion Oaks a capacity of 45 for women. And then at Beacon Point, like I said, we do have that 1 to 2 month residential program, and we have a capacity of 7 beds over there. So this is our crisis stabilization unit. Again, at 60th main location, we take care of kids, adults. We have the detox over there, and we have the additional detox over here at Beacon Point. All right, so mental health. Yes, ma'am.
Children crisis stabilization.
So we can do 5 to 18. So when 5 years old definitely is kind of a gray area, and I've had to do a Bay corrective on a 5-year-old, and I won't lie, it kind of bothered me because it's a 5-year-old. So normally it's 6+, but we do have the capacity for 5, and even in our outpatient, we will service 5+. Yeah.
I have a question.
Yep.
I know some people have mental health, but also Marion County pick them up and they put them in jail, and they send them to Marion County jail for the longest, and they have mental health. When they get back out, they right back at where they started, and they don't know nothing about these programs. And I doubt they go in the jailhouse and see who got mental health in there, because today it's a lot of them got mental health, and they go to the jailhouse and sit in there within a certain amount of time, come back out on the streets and do the same thing over and over with no help. Like, they don't know nothing about these programs because nobody don't tell them. So I think that's one area y'all want to look into, where the mental health is really at, is where people is homeless and they got heavy mental health. So that's one area I know a lot of people got it, but they don't know what these programs exist right now.
I agree. I absolutely agree. I think that's a weak area, a need for our community in Marion County. Because a few years ago, I came from Gainesville and actually oversaw a jail forensics treatment court program. So we have that in Marion County, but honestly, I feel it's a little bit less structured. So you have individuals, again, recidivism in and out that aren't necessarily being connected to these services. And again, Marion County's got a lot of good stuff, but people don't really know about it. And we check so many boxes for mental health, but people still don't know about us. Or almost every other day I'm hearing the centers. We're not the centers, we're SMA. We're trying to do bigger, better things. So I just think that's another great reason for case management. They know all these services in the community. They'll get you hooked up. The mobile crisis response team will get you hooked up with all these services. And we're trying to do a lot of outreach. I mean, kind of like this right now, of what are we doing? How can we serve? And I can say, and I'm very excited, we are working on, it's a 1-year planning grant. It's a criminal justice grant. So if we get it, we can implement probably a very large team. And I would love to do a lot of in-jail stuff, beef up the treatment courts, because Marion County has a drug court, mental health court, teen court, veteran court, and trying to beef up the services to make those far more effective. but definitely the end jail of just being able to get therapy in there and then even connect them when they come out. And one of the services programs they used to be over, we would go pick them up if they didn't have family and friends, take them right over, get those appointments set up, medications filled, give them a therapy appointment, all that good stuff. So we're trying. We're definitely trying, but we need y'all support too, you know? Okay? But, yes, ma'am.
Symptoms would a 5 or 7 year old manifest to, I guess, to assess them as being in need of this treatment? Yes.
Good question. Yeah. I mean, later on, we're kind of going to go into a little self-harm, suicidal behavior. And that is a call that, you know, law enforcement doctor or licensed professional has to make, because it's almost the same thing. Do we feel comfortable that they have a good support system that I can leave and they're going to be taken care of? Or if I have that concern, then we do have to move forward. So I would say a good example is the 5-year-old that I did a couple years ago, Baker Act. It was actually through our mobile crisis response team. I went out there to help them. Just happened to be a very difficult situation, a 5-year-old. But law enforcement called us. I went out there, and it was a 5-year-old who had brought pretty much a realistic K-bar knife, and out of nowhere pulled it out and started charging kids in his class, threatening to kill them. And I actually had the law enforcement officer talking to me while we were walking back to the classroom. Almost had a breakdown because he said he was in a position that looked so real, and what the kid was saying, he almost pulled his gun on a 5-year-old. And that's something he has to live with, but he didn't, thank goodness, that he was able to get close enough, put hands on, and realize it was fake. But while I was there talking to him and the mother, he was stating that when he gets home, he knows how he will do it and when he would do it. So as a mental health professional, that's Baker Act criteria. So I had to put him under a Baker Act and get him in a safe place that we could assess further. And when you're looking at 5, I mean, yes, there's a lot of it is behavioral issues, and there's also a good sign that there's a lot more going on in home. But by getting them in that safe place, we're going to do a lot more in-depth assessment, possibly get DCF involved if we need to. But again, we have to get them in a safe place, because at that moment, he was immediate threat to himself. So, but yeah, one of the sections we're going to talk about is kind of Baker Act criteria, someone that's in crisis, those signs and symptoms to look at. And that was kind of what we're going to start getting into now is, you know, mental health, what is it? And some of the diagnosis and symptoms that y'all can look at, because we all experience many of these diagnoses at least once in our life. We have family members, we have friends, co-workers, we walk by people down the street. Yes, sir. You have a question?
Yes, sir. Do they treat their PTSD also?
We do, yes, sir. We do that. We have inpatient, outpatient. We have the doctors, medication providers that can help with that. So a mental health diagnosis is short and sweet, something that affects a person's ability. So work, caring, daily activities, engaging in satisfactory relationships. You know, it's impairing their thinking, their process, their behavior. So the impact. A lot of people don't necessarily realize how someone's life can be impaired by a mental health diagnosis. So if you kind of read at the bottom, a disabling ability such as severe depression it's not actually at the bottom, I'm sorry, but towards the bottom, per Social Security Administration, mental health can be more disabling than many chronic physical illnesses, including many cancers. And I know when I do presentations and talk, people seem to be very shocked. Like, you're telling me that major depressive disorder is more disabling than most cancers? And according to research and Social Security Administration, yes, because you might have that cancer and be able to go through your work, your life, be able to get out of bed, be able to eat. Major depressive disorder, someone that's really, really struggling, they don't want to get out of bed. They don't want to eat. They don't want to talk to their families. They don't want to go to work. They might be having those thoughts of hurting themselves or other, because it's literally that's disabling. They're not be able to go through life living and attending the things that we normally enjoy, such as going to church, being with family and friends. These are just some quotes I put in that, yes, we can recover through mental health using professional services, support systems, it is possible. You're not stuck in that dark place for the rest of your life. Reaching out to your family and friends and to your church and getting that help you need, we are able to move forward and recover. And these are just some statistics I pulled. I think this is around 2020, so obviously a little outdated. But anxiety disorder, as far as the population out of all the U.S., about 18% of people diagnose disorder or anxiety, 6% major depressive, 8% substance use, bipolar 2.8, and a big shocker is schizophrenia, 0.3 to 0.7. So media, um, social media, the news always makes us think that people with schizophrenia, psychotic type of features and diagnoses are all over the place. If you look at that, that's an incredibly low percentage out of all Americans. And again, it's not illegal to have psychotic features, to hear stuff and see stuff. Now, if it's threatening themselves or others, that's a different story. But people all around us actually having these diagnoses, and we don't even necessarily know them. And sometimes people don't even know they have these diagnoses until they have contact with the criminal justice system, until they get Baker Acted, until they have family and friends actually come forward and say, you need some help. So again, with this training, kind of learning some of these signs and symptoms, hopefully you can help yourself and others of just kind of opening your eyes and saying, hey, this might be something you're struggling with. Let's get you help. And now you kind of know some of the services in your community that can help you with that. And if you see at the bottom, only 41% of people with mental illness use mental health services in a given year. So out of all that percentage, 40% aren't even getting any help for it. All right, anxiety, depression, which is the most common mental diagnosis, very similar, and most of the time they are hand in hand with each other. You might develop one, but along the way, very good odds you're going to develop the other one. So anxiety disorder, a lot of different symptoms. You have physical symptoms, the sweating, shaking, high blood pressure. You have social, where they don't want to go out. They don't want to go to work. They don't want to go to, group activities and stuff like that. So it's very disabling because if you're terrified, if your body's having symptoms, which even, makes it even more impairing, anxiety is definitely something that bothers a lot of people. And I also want to tell people, because I've had medical people jump in and be like, hey, that could be medical problems. And no way am I saying that you have some of these physical symptoms, it's anxiety. You should always medical first, mental health second, but just keep it in mind that if it's yourself or your family members or somebody asking those questions, have you ever had an anxiety attack? Do you have an anxiety disorder? Is this the first time? Because if it's first time, it probably more than likely would be medical, but still a medical professional should assess first, because you don't want to just sit there and be like, hey, you're having a panic attack, calm down. It could be something more intensive, more serious. So always do that, but kind of being aware that this could be anxiety related. Let's see, anxiety disorders. So anxiety definitely, research shows, kind of develops in kids, and if it's not addressed, it becomes more intensive throughout their years. Kind of again with those habits, you're kind of learning bad habits, unhealthy habits, and if we don't address them and work on them, they're only going to become more intensive and stay with you for years down the road. Ooh. Yes, ma'am.
So am I to understand that little children who have separation anxiety, this could be the beginning sign of
Definitely.
a symptom of anxiety?
That could be a domino effect into more and more. Yeah. I mean, I think the numbers, I think it's this PowerPoint. Anxiety disorder emerges in about 3% of 6-year-olds and about 5% of teenage boys and 10% of teenage girls. And children with anxiety disorder have an increased risk for depression, suicidal behaviors, drug use, alcohol addiction, and academic difficulties. I always like to tell people, I'm a big believer in mind, body, and soul. If you don't address, let's say, the mental health of yourself, it's going to affect yourself in other ways. It's going to affect yourself medically. So, an individual that's holding in depression, anxiety, it's going to show itself. We're not robots. We're not machines or nothing like that. Even if you're the biggest, toughest guy in the world, it's going to show itself in one way or other. So it could result in substance use. It could result in a negative outlook on life, anger issues, high blood pressure. You could have intestinal, stomach pains and issues like that. So again, a lot of that is just amazing how the mind is connected with each other. And if you don't take care of one, it's going to affect the other. Just like if you don't have a medical condition, you're not treating it, you're going to start having issues of maybe I don't want to go out in public because I'm having this intestinal stomach issues. A lot of stuff is hand in hand with depression because you're in chronic pain all the time. Every time you get up and move or you talk, you're feeling physical pain. So now everything that you're kind of enjoying in life is almost being taken away from you. If depression is going to start creeping in if you're not aware and you don't have a healthy support system. So definitely anxiety can definitely domino effect, ripple effect into other issues if you don't address them, if you're not aware of them, you don't talk to people, or even especially with kids. That's why it's so important because they're creating the foundation of how they are going to respond in life for the rest of their life. So having those healthy coping skills, because we all have coping skills. It's sad to say a lot of us have unhealthy coping skills. So trying to identify those unhealthy coping skills and replace them with healthy coping skills. Because a lot of people have an issue of you having a bad behavior or bad unhealthy coping skills, let's stop it. Okay, so you've now removed that unhealthy coping skill or behavior, you have to replace it with a positive one. Because if you don't, it's going to be filled in either with the same one or now a new unhealthy coping skill. So if you're going to remove something and work on it, you have to replace it. And almost like a habit, they say takes up to 3 months. If you're going to stop a bad habit, it's not 1 week, it's not a couple weeks, up to 3 months. For everybody's different. But if you're replacing that bad habit, replace it with another one. Because if not, now you're going to be looking at a different substance, another drug, another personal issue. So yeah, it's not easy work, but again, support systems, being mindful of this stuff, and if need be, reaching out to professionals, peer specialists to try to get that help you need to keep on moving forward. These are just some of the basic anxiety diagnosis. So you have, general anxiety. So generalized anxiety is all day, every day. It's not one specific thing. It could just be anxiety of life that affects you and impairs you, panic disorder, separation anxiety, social anxiety, and specific phobias. So generalized anxiety is that persistent state of a heightened anxiety. And again, this is a lot of physical symptoms. It's not necessarily one specific environment, one thing, one person. It's just a constant. And again, that's domino effect if you don't take care of it. Now, very likely depression is going to be working its way in and could even lead to some other stuff. Panic disorders. I know I'm kind of repeating myself, but definitely being mindful of it, panic disorders, but medical should be primary. I've had clients and friends that have had panic disorders, and I don't know if any of y'all have had them or seen them. They can be scary. You think somebody's having a heart attack, a stroke, they're seizing up, they can't speak. So I don't want people to be like, it's just a panic attack. No. Let's try to get the medical first. If you need to, call law enforcement, or let's just separate that person from what's triggering them, get them in calm place. You want to try to sit them down. If someone's having a panic attack, you want to give them those boundaries and space. Don't touch them. Don't tell them you know what they're feeling, because now you're taking that away from them. And if you're in pain, do you want somebody to come up and say, I know exactly what you're feeling? That's kind of annoying, and you're probably going to want to push them away. So just be there and as a support system, but at the same time, giving them space, making them feel comfortable. They might need something to sit down, some water, but you never want to force it. Panic attacks simply take time for them, those emotions to decompress and calm down. But being there, because many people can have different things: sweating, trembling, shortness of breath, chest pain, nausea, dizziness. A lot of that is that's medical. That's heart attack. And it doesn't help to be screaming, almost like, de-escalation techniques. If an individual's not happy, irritated, you don't want to match their energy. You want to lead by example and have lower, because it might take a couple minutes or several minutes, but they're going to come down to your level. And then you want to keep working that way. So you never want to match somebody's energy, because more than likely they're going to increase their energy over yours. So panic attack, it doesn't help if you're screaming, stuff like that. Be an example, calm, cool, collective, and that'll help them quicker come down to your level. Social anxiety. Again, probably something everybody struggles with. That could be school, going to parties, going to work. Yeah, and it could all have started from one simple event, possibly being from a kid, public presentation, being bullied. And again, if they don't have that healthy support system kind of going home, being able to talk about it, again, it'll have that domino effect that it could start growing into a social anxiety. It could develop into a generalized anxiety. So again, that's why it's just so important that we have that support system. We have family and friends that people can work with. We are social beings, so isolation is a huge trigger for depression and anxiety, and it's huge for substance use as well. All right, depression. Depressive disorder is, ma'am? Oh, here you go.
So you said isolation is a huge trigger. So deliberately isolating yourself, not having a community, not having family, is that what you're talking about?
It could be. I mean, deliberately isolating. I mean, after maybe a trauma or something, a little bit of time to separate, but as that being your coping skill to isolate, that's unhealthy. Because again, we need support systems. We need people to talk to, lean on. And isolation and also boredom is huge trigger for substance use and depression. Because when you have idle time on your hands, people don't necessarily seem to do good things or healthy things. That's why it is good to stay active, it's good to stay engaged. And I think church and religion is amazing motivator, positive reinforcement for people, because it gives you that engagement, that social connection, and a purpose. Because if people don't have purpose and isolate, again, that's kind of you quickly go down a deep, dark hole. And the further you go down a deep, dark hole of depression, the harder it is for someone to get out of that. And speaking as far as depression, so characterized by sadness, irritability that is severe or persistent enough to interfere with functions and cause considerable distress. So the two basic types is major depressive disorder and persistent depressive disorder. So major depression, so an episode that lasts around 2 weeks. Again, that's not set in stone. Everybody's different. It could be less, it could be more, it could be a lot more. It occurs 2% of children, 5% as adolescents. And as you kind of see, just a couple years, those numbers doubled plus. And the further you go, just like anxiety, if you don't address it, do something around it, it's just going to get more and more and more intense. And if you don't do something about it, there are other risk factors: academic failure, substance use, and suicidal behavior. And as far as, experience, personal experience, professional, and a crisis team, you hear people that have kind of gone down that deep, dark hole, that have thoughts of hurting themselves or others. And a lot of times they'll be like, what's wrong with me? I've never had this before. But if you get to that deep, dark place, I do like to tell people there's nothing wrong with you. There is a time, the further down depression gets, you are going to have thoughts of suicide. It's a scary word. It scares people, but that's just a huge red flag for you, and should be hopefully your family and friends. Now is the time I need to do something, because it's not just going to get better out of nowhere by yourself. That's when you're in that place where you really need help, either professional, church, something like that. So what I'm just saying is there's nothing wrong with you if you're having those thoughts. If anything, it means I need help, and I need help now. Ooh, my TV turned off. There it is. Alrighty. Because, if you don't address it, it's just going to get worse and worse. And that just kind of breaks down a little bit of the depression. I don't know if y'all can see that. All right. Persistent depression disorder, not as intensive as major depressive disorder, but it's persistent. So it's almost like a fly or something around you. It's constant. It's never leaving you. It's always that cloud above you that's persistent and just keeps taking and taking away from you and not wanting you to be able to do things in life and talk to people and work with people that you enjoy. So it can be, fatigue, energy, low self-esteem, poor concentration, poor appetite, or the opposite, overeating. It could be not being able to go to sleep, or now wanting to sleep until 12 o'clock on the weekends, 1 o'clock on the weekends, coming home from work, and the first thing you want to do is go home and sleep and not talk and eat with the family. Again, these are definitely some yellow flags, some red flags that now is the time to start doing something for yourself. All All right, trauma and stress related. The basic diagnosis: post-traumatic stress disorder, acute stress disorder, and adjustment disorder. So there is a big difference between post-traumatic stress and acute. In short and sweet, what it is acute is within 6 months. And if it continues after 6 months in general, again, it's not like it's set in stone on your calendar, 6 months and one day I now have PTSD. But after 6 months, then you're developing post-traumatic stress. So everybody's different. It can be one person. You could have let's just say a tree falls right between two people. One person, it doesn't affect them at all. They keep walking away like it never even happened. The next one, they start developing stress, anxiety. They're having flashbacks, nightmares. So everybody processes different. There's nothing wrong with the people or a person that does develop that. So it's not like it's a weakness of, hey, I'm struggling with this and that person isn't. What's wrong with me? It's just how we are. And a lot of times I believe it does come like how you're raised. Those healthy coping skills that you develop as a kid stay with you for the rest of your life. So one person might have gone home, didn't think about it, maybe picked up the bottle or something like that. The other one went home, talked to family and friends, went to church, prayed about it, and it didn't bother them. So everybody's different. I don't know if y'all remember, I think it was 2 years ago where there was a shooting on the football field. We're in the middle of there's a bunch of teams going on. So the sheriff and the mobile crisis response team, we actually went out there and kind of did an event, just kind of presented, hey, we're here. And we had a bunch of kids come forward. Some saw it, some heard it. Actually had one kid that actually didn't hear nothing, but it was the chaos going on around her that was giving her the nightmares and stuff like that. So again, good on her, good on these people for coming forward and talking about it, because now they're addressing it while it's still fresh and it's not sinking in, it's not scarring them to where it can develop into post-traumatic stress disorder. So, and a good little breakdown too is post-traumatic stress disorder means a specific event. It could be an act of God, it could be combat, it could be a shooting, it could be a domestic violence situation. It's usually one specific event that has almost burned and scarred an individual. So if it's 6+ months down the road and you're having that specific dream over and over and over again, that's a very good sign that person's having post-traumatic stress disorder. Now, if you're having a dream of, let's just say, going to school or test taking or possibly getting in accidents or something like that, that's more down the road of anxiety, because it's not one specific scarring event. It's kind of a general area of people or of a situation. So just kind of keeping that in mind. With post-traumatic stress, you could be walking down the street and see something, feel something. You could have treatment, and out of nowhere, you're learning a new trigger of yourself. It could be a smell. Definitely with law enforcement and combat veterans, that's treatment that someone might need to be in for a very long time, because it's so deep, such a scar with them, that they might just hear a sound, and now it's giving them a flashback. It's almost pulling them out of where they currently are and back into that environment that they once were, that has scarred them and hurt them so bad. Now, is it going to affect them for the rest of their life? Hopefully with those services, we can get them to where they move forward. That's just why it's so critical with acute stress and post-traumatic stress, is those first 6 months, getting them the help they need, addressing the problem, having them feel comfortable to talk about it, to where it doesn't develop into post-traumatic stress. Because post-traumatic stress, more disabling, more affecting their life every day, going to work, going to church. That's when it's becoming more crippling. Acute can be crippling, but let's take care of it before it really gets you, Get that help. Talk to family and friends. So just some examples of post-traumatic stress. It could be feeling sad, hopeless, crying all the time, worrying, having trouble sleeping, not eating. There's so much research behind post-traumatic stress and how it affects our body. The constant stress on how it messes with the stomach, how it messes with your appetite. If you think about it, being shot at or having a bear come chase you or something like that, how the body kind of to an extent resorts energy from basic things like digestion and resorts it to that energy that you're going to need to survive and stay alive. Post-traumatic stress can have the same effects, to where your body constantly feels like it's going to die, it's going to be hurt, to where your body is kind of pulling that energy away from basic functions that you need. That's why a lot of people with post-traumatic stress have stomach issues, aren't able to go to the restroom, have no appetite, because their body is always conditioned to, it's ready for what's about to happen to them. So, I mean, that's just one thing is the stomach. Just think about the rest of it. Trying to go to sleep when you think your body is in harm's way. How are you going to enjoy different things in life if you're constantly looking over your shoulder? You think you're constantly going to get hurt. You know, domestic violence victims, it's huge for post-traumatic stress disorder, because if they don't get that help they need, or they've been in that situation for years and years and years, it takes a very long time. I'm a big believer of anybody that's been in prison. I don't really want to put time over it, but 6 months to a year plus, they are constantly on alert. There's so much going around, because I worked in the prison for a couple of years as a mental health professional. I think everybody, to an extent, that goes through prison develops post-traumatic stress disorder, because it doesn't necessarily happen to them. They're seeing so much around them, so much pain, so much negativity, that they are going to absorb that. They're going to bring that home with them. So that's why I think, criminal justice system, prison, jails, we need so much more, because there's not enough to little even going on in there. So they're coming back out into our community. So let's give them the help they need. And especially with the criminal justice system, these people might be struggling with this for their entire life and don't even know they have these diagnoses. So kind of bridging the gap, connecting with services, but we got to get them where we can. So it's either in a crisis stabilization unit, outpatient, law enforcement, prisons, and jails, where we can kind of get hands-on, give them that education. These are the type of services, and get them the help they need so they can move forward in a healthy way. So yeah, I think it's a huge gap, and we definitely need to do more. All right, so self-harm. Again, I'm a touchy subject. If anybody, whenever I talk about this, if you need to step away or anything, because I know it can be very triggering. Myself, I've seen individuals self-harm, have attempted to commit suicide personally, professional. I was also in the military, so I had multiple people in the barracks that have attempted to commit suicide. So I know it can be very triggering. So, I'm just throwing it out there if you need to step out or anything like that. But at the same time, how rippling effects, it doesn't just affect the one individual, it affects everybody around that individual. So self-harm, people need to be mindful, is not necessarily attempting to kill themselves. It's another form of unhealthy coping skill. Self-harm can be scratching, burning, hitting walls, physical harm that is kind of numbing and taking them away from the pain that they're going through mentally to physical to pain. It's an unhealthy coping skill because they're distracting themselves. So, also definition of self-harm, also known as self-injury, self-mutilation, self-abuse, and it happens when a person intentionally hurts themselves on purpose, but not intending to kill themselves. Now, when I'm saying somebody that's self-harm, should they be Baker acted? I'm not saying that, but you do have to be cautious, because especially someone that cuts, the more and more they cut, the bigger and deeper they have to go. And all it takes is one cut, and now they've hit a artery or something, and now they possibly could die. People are Baker acted and die all the time from self-harm because they cut and cut some more. Personal experience with, yes, sir?
Thank you. What exactly is the philosophy behind the idea of cutting oneself? What exactly have you guys identified of someone trying to accomplish from doing that?
Well, to an extent, kind of like this, expressing yourself, distracting pain. It could be an environment. I do feel that self-harm is taught. I think it's on one of my slides how, nope, I didn't have it. The percentage of, it's a lot higher in female teenagers because they learn it from other ones. And again, kind of going with depression, anxiety, it starts young and it continues. The percentage of adults developing self-harm and cutting is very low. It develops in that adolescent age. And if you think about adolescent, you're absorbing everything around you of how do I go through life? How am I going to handle this stress? That's why substance use is high, depression is high, anxiety is high, self-harm, cutting is high, because TV shows it. Teenage girls talk about it a lot. So, I mean, and that's not just me talking, that's the data that's showing teenagers and specifically females. And a lot of them report it, especially in our inpatient unit. A lot of the time they straight up will say, I saw another girl do this. And I mean, if you think about just like substance use, putting the bottle to your mouth every single time, you know it's not healthy, but we keep doing it because we might not necessarily know anything else. We might not have anybody to talk to or anybody to want to talk to. So that self-medicating, that unhealthy coping skills of trying to get through life, we all have coping skills. That's just one that is, concerning. One cut away could end one's life. But yeah, but you don't want to feel like isolating someone. That's shame on you for doing that. If anything, that person needs a lot more help, needs more people, a stronger support system. And it's not obvious, too, that people are doing it. I know I had one client, she cut a lot on her arms, and out of nowhere, she was all proud of herself that, hey, I'm not cutting no more. We can only see what she's cutting, and come to find out later on down the road, she admitted to us she then started cutting on her legs. No one could see that, though, not even her parents, because they weren't necessarily looking in that area. So I didn't, but people thought, oh, great, here's the help she needed. She's healed. She's doing great. That's not true. She just kind of learned that she liked the support. She was feeling better. We were doing great work, but she almost wanted to please us that we were doing such work, that she wanted to hide what she was suffering just by doing it somewhere else. That's why, not giving up on people. Hey, they're saying they're doing great. They're saying doing good. Doesn't mean stop doing what you're doing. They still need that support. They still need you reaching out and talking to them, because it just doesn't stop and end like that.
Caution for parents, as Jeremiah said, if you see your child and it's 100 degrees outside and they're going outside with hoodies, or even staying inside with hoodies and black pants all the way down, never wearing shorts or short sleeve, this should be a clue to you to kind of check and see what's happening. Again, we need to respect their bodies, but when they go to a doctor's office for an exam, a good doctor will make sure that they see all parts of their bodies.
Alrighty. I think I accidentally read backwards. I'm sorry. All right, and these are just some examples of self-harm: cutting, scraping, bruises, burning, pulling hair. I've had a client who intentionally would hit the wall with his head, causing bruising and bleeding, inserting objects into body openings, drinking, or even attempting to break bones. All right, so different risk factors for suicidal behaviors. Now, again, it doesn't just it affects us all. We're all human beings. But again, as far as the data, you're looking at specific age groups, chronic physical illness, mental illness. These are people that have higher rates of potential suicidal thoughts. If I remember correctly, the highest rate of individuals who have died by suicide is actually 65 plus males. And if you think about that, 65 plus, a lot of support systems have gone away. They may be isolated. They don't have those family and friends, having chronic pain all the time. And men, so gender, women have higher rates of attempted suicide. Men have higher rates of dying by suicide. And the research behind that shows why men are more isolated, quiet, they plan, and men usually will attempt suicide with more violent means, like car accidents or weapons, than women, because women, again, not being offensive or anything, are more afraid of the pain, or they want to be more presentable in like a coffin per se. So, men that are quiet, they need our help too. Men can be tough, especially military, law enforcement, stuff like that. They still need that help that they have. I think with men too is when men are quiet or angry, we view that as a problem. But if anything, those are kind of the two main ways we're taught as young men how to cope with life and stress is to be angry or quiet. So if you're seeing someone, a male, that's kind of showing those symptoms of angry or being more quiet and isolated than normal, they're not a problem. If anything, that's their way of saying they need a little bit more help. So kind of reaching out to them, giving that, communicating to support systems and stuff. And definitely substance use spikes suicidal behavior because now their mental thinking is impaired, and they're more likely to act on those thoughts versus trying to think and plan and what's the right and wrong behind my actions. Previous attempts, that's huge. If they're going to do it once, rates show that there's very good odds if they're, again, not getting that therapy, not getting that help, that possibly you're going to attempt it more likely down the road. Warning signs, again, everybody's different, but simply making statements that threaten and hurt themselves or others, feeling hopeless, worthless, lack of purpose, acting recklessly, seeking access to weapons, feeling trapped, sudden increase of drug use, withdrawal from everything that was good to them and support systems. And a big one too is people out of nowhere that are all of a sudden become happy. So that was something kind of saw a lot in the prison, was isolated, I don't want to talk. That's very concerning, because if you don't want to talk about it, you don't want nobody to touch you, don't want to be no one around you, that's very concerning, because they're possibly in that area to where they're almost beyond our reach. So they need that more help. But at the same time, you have that person that's coming to work every single day, not doing good at work, very sad, very depressed, not want to talk to nobody. And then out of Monday, they come in, they're happy, they're talkative, and you're like, wow, great for them. They changed. Whatever they were needing, they took care of it. That's a huge red flag, because that is dangerous, because that person now possibly might have a plan and a means that they have established of when they're going to do it. If you think about, maybe it's like a big bill you have paid off, and you finally have what you need to, and you're going to pay it off next Tuesday, you probably feel a lot better, because you know you're about to take care of the problem. If a person's in that deep, dark place and now they have maybe that plans and means of how they're going to do it, some people even set dates of when they're going to do it. It's almost as to them as if that burden has been taken off their back. Now they feel happy. They want to do stuff. They want to go out and have fun. So part of us feels like, oh, wow, they're doing something great for themselves. That's not necessarily true. And again, don't stop giving them that support, making them feel loved and heard, because that probably they really, really need it more than they did. And if you need to, don't be afraid calling a mobile crisis response team. Calling law enforcement if you have to. Because would you rather have somebody angry at you or not have somebody there at all because they went and did something that hurt themselves? So when it comes to that type of stuff, you have to ask questions. Don't be afraid not to ask them. I hear a lot of time people are like, well, if I have, ask them, are you having these thoughts? I'm giving them the thoughts that they might have hurt themselves. That's absolutely not correct. There's a lot of research behind that shows if they've been thinking about it, they've been thinking about it. You didn't give them the thought that now they're going to start thinking about it. If anything, that person has been begging for someone to ask them that question, and now they might finally open up. So if you're having those concerns, talk to people, and sometimes you have to be very direct, because are you okay? What do most people say? Yeah, I'm fine. Oh, you think you just did good because you asked and checked in on them. No, you need to push. You got to ask a little bit more, and you got to be very direct sometimes. Are you thinking this? Are you doing this? Are you struggling with this? Are these thoughts? And if they're given those yes answers, make sure you stay with that person. I know I've seen it personally where people ask that and they hear a yes, and okay, you sit here, I'm going to run and go get some help. Definitely not. You want to stay with that person. Because if you think about it, you finally just opened up to somebody and now they run away. What was the point of me talking about it? And now they just ran away. And now I feel worse than what I was. So you might think it's only a couple minutes, 5 or 10 minutes. You want to stay with that person, maybe text, call, get some help, or have them come with you. And if they don't, stay with them. Somebody's going to come and find you or something like that. Just don't ever leave that person when they actually finally opened up and shared those thoughts and feelings to you. I just kind of want to throw this in there real quick, because we hear it a lot, is autism. It is not a mental health diagnosis. It is a neurodevelopmental disorder we get it a lot with, especially in our inpatient crisis unit, is individuals that are autistic. Hey, Baker Act them, take them into your facility. We're not appropriate for that. And it's nothing wrong with them. It's not like they can go get some treatment and be able to take care of that. It is something that this individual is going to live through the rest of their life. And they still have a fulfilling, happy life. Yes, most definitely. But again, they need that support. They need those skills that they can be able to learn. But just the main two main features for autism is persistent deficits in social communication and interaction, and restrictive, repetitive patterns of behavior, interest, and or activities. So again, very key if you're seeing this in families, kids, go on and get those actual diagnosis, that assessment. It's a very thorough 1, 2, 3 hour assessment. But, and then some people kind of get scared too of, do I want to get that diagnosis? Do I want to see if my kids, you need the direction of where you're going to move. So to get that yes or no, so you definitely want to seek out those professionals, the psychiatrists, the doctors that can do this, because now you know, or if it's not, but at least now you know, and you can get the proper help they need, because it's so critical when they're younger to be able to teach them these life skills that they can move through life. So the best things for treating, oh yes ma'am.
Okay, I just wanted to say that sometimes when autistic people are on the spectrum, they behave in different ways. Mm-hmm. And even though you say it's not a mental health situation, they can have strange behavior that might be interpreted that way. Yeah. And I have a grandson with it. And sometimes, since he's an adult, I am afraid that some people might misunderstand some of his behavior and react, negatively, or the police might, over-respond in some negative kind of way. So it depends on where you are on the spectrum, and it can come across as mental.
Definitely. I think, again, that's why it's so important pushing out education and awareness to our community, to law enforcement. Marion County, they're definitely stepping their game up for mental health training, and in training in intellectual and neurological development issues. Because, if they don't know, they've never been taught or shown anything else, they're going to show up on scene and think it could be something else. So I think family members learning how to support their loved ones more, and then people in the profession and fields learning more. Lack of knowledge is dangerous. So the more knowledgeable we are, the better we can serve and protect each other. So I do agree. And we do have people that are Baker Acted and taken to our facility that have diagnosis of autism. But again, law enforcement sometimes is put in that situation of, this person is actively trying to hurt themselves or others. We have to put them in a safe place. And I think it's another huge gap in services that, sad to say, that safe place is either an emergency department or an inpatient treatment facility. But again, we have padded rooms, we have safe rooms, we're able to take care of them, isolate them, and be able to give them the support they need. But it happens a lot in our community everywhere. But again, I think we're growing and getting in the right direction. We just need more training, more awareness, and more programs. Over here.
I've heard you made mention of the support system, periodically. What are some of the primary support system that you're emphasizing on so much that will be most beneficial to someone that's having these sort of issues?
You've got the family support system, you got community support system, you have the church support system. As far as us, you have therapy, we have the psychosocial rehab. To be able to get into that program, you have to have an intellectual or a serious mental illness diagnosis. We have a program is called targeted case management, where you have to have an intellectual or neurological development disorder to be able to meet criteria for our program. And they will actually come out to the home, connect you to services, help you with what you need. They do a lot of connecting people for ABA therapy and psychiatrists, proper diagnosis. There's peer support program, peer respites. Marion County does not have one specifically for that. I would love to see one out here, but just a place where people can go during the day and get group activities, get people that are trained specifically on what they're going through and be able to help them learn life skills, healthy coping skills, communication skills. Again, I think it's another gap in services we need to do something about. But yeah, just letting them know they're not alone and having people that kind of know these signs and symptoms to be able to be there, or people to be able to reach out, give us a call, and we'll tell you all the services that we have in our community. Does that kind of answer it? Okay, cool. All right, and as far as treatment, you're kind of looking, the main approaches for it would be applied behavioral analysis. Again, that's the ABA therapy I was talking about, teaching cognitive, social, and behavioral skills, speech and language therapy, physical and occupational therapy, and then sometimes mental health, not mental health, I apologize, but medications to be able to help with relieve some behavioral health problems. Because definitely severe autism, you can look at nonverbal, self-injury. I think, again, something I'm kind of proud of with the mobile crisis response team is we have talked to law enforcement. We go out to their Baker Act trainings, their Baker Act refresher trainings. We go out to their annually, their school resource officers. We've done it last 2 years. We actually spoke to all the school resource officers. A lot of this PowerPoint we actually did with them, kind of showing them signs and symptoms of mental health, autism, self-injury, and stuff like that. So again, trying to give them as many tools in their toolbox so when they're on scene for these type of things, they can try to help people as much as possible. All right, psychotic features, psychosis. So it's a psychosis condition in which a person has lost contact with reality. They can also, they hear stuff, they see stuff that's not there, they feel stuff, tactile. They can have delusions, paranoia. It's very broad. There's many different types of psychotic features. They can come in episodes. They can be constant. They can be triggering. Again, this is a mental health illness, so it's not like they can, like depression, anxiety, they can get treatment, help, and overcome it. This is something that they will be living with the rest of their life. So learning skills that they need to be able to move through life. Sometimes if it's severe enough, having medications that decrease or stop their psychotic features. Everybody's different. Sometimes they can take medication and they no longer have psychotic features. Some, it might just make them quieter. It might make them less. Everybody's different. And just because they have psychotic features does not mean there's something wrong with them. I've had clients that, I had one who was his deceased past grandmother, and he heard her voice. And whenever she spoke to him, she was positive, reassuring. So yes, technically that was an auditory hallucination. He had a diagnosis of schizophrenia, but he would not get medication because he enjoyed his hallucinations. And they weren't negative to him. They weren't telling him to hurt himself or others. They weren't scary. They actually motivated him to try to do the right things in life and stay on the right course. I've had one client who heard elevator music. It was very calming to him. Sometimes it could just be random noises. I had one that heard birds singing. And again, it wasn't bothering to him. There's nothing wrong with that. So I know people will be like driving down the street and you see somebody talking to themselves. They're probably going through command hallucinations. They're hearing, seeing stuff. But there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing illegal with having psychotic features. There's, if anything, that kind of going back with the other stuff, those are the ones that need more help. They need a stronger support system. They need somebody getting out there. Do you need help? And sad to say, people going through psychotic episodes are more than likely to have contact with law enforcement because it scares other people. And we don't really have those services that can kind of get out there and help them. So law enforcement or the mobile crisis response team gets out there, try to de-escalate, connect them to services, whatever they need. Here's the basic types for psychosis. So you have schizophrenia, bipolar, yes, psychotic depressive disorder, schizoaffective, which so schizophrenia is kind of psychotic features with depression. Schizoaffective is more of a mood disorder, so the psychotic features with a mood disorder. And then there is drug-induced psychosis. So people that have taken drugs and now they're experiencing psychotic auditory hallucinations, visual, seeing stuff and stuff. Yes?
Oh, so on the previous slide, how do you deal and interact with someone that's going through, the psychotic or psychoses. Because I work in a hospital and I do imaging, and sometimes you're with the patient for a good 20, 30 minutes,
Yeah.
and they're going through, like patient can see spiders on the wall, and I don't want to tell them they don't,
Yeah.
but I don't want to, I don't know how to interact. I don't want to not say anything, but I don't want to say, no, you're not seeing it.
It's a very thin line. I mean, bottom line, you don't want them to feel isolated. There's something wrong with them. They're weird, because this is something they're struggling with. But as far as acknowledging it, I've been in that situation a lot, and I try my best not to acknowledge it. What I do is I see the anxiety it's causing you, the fear it's causing you. I can see it's causing you to struggle with concentration and fill out this paperwork. So you're not necessarily acknowledging or denying that you're seeing it, but you're acknowledging what they're struggling with and the pain and struggle they're going through. If that kind of makes sense. Because I've had clients straight up ask me, "You see that, don't you?" And I say, "I'm not here to question you, but I'm here to support and help you, and I see what you're going through and the pain and the fear and anxiety you're going through." But that is a good time, if you're seeing that, to try to do referrals, support them, and help them in the right direction for some more specialized treatment. And then it's kind of what I explained earlier, so just some symptoms: delusions, hallucinations, disorganized speech, disorganized behavior, loss of drive, and blunted emotions. So kind of that blunted, flacked effect, no emotions on their face. That's a potential symptom of schizophrenia and social withdrawal. So bipolar disorder, as I kind of like to explain it, it's a mood disorder. So you kind of struggle with manic, high energy, and then that could be a couple weeks to a couple months. Everybody's different, but then you kind of come down to a depressive, major depressive state. So with a mood disorder, there is no kind of general middle. So, for us, we might get happy or get sad, but we kind of still come down to like a neutral mood. With major depressive, there is no neutral mood. You're either manic, you could be, I'm going to be a race car driver, I'm going to become a star, I'm Superman, I can jump off buildings, to very quickly major depressive. I'm depressed, I don't want to leave the home. That can be, they're very high risk of then having thoughts and attempted suicide when they're in that major depressive state. And then again, a couple weeks, couple months, they go back into a manic. Sometimes there is hypomania, where it's not a full manic episode, but they're kind of there, so not as intensive, but still can be very concerning. So if you hear bipolar a lot, like, hey, this morning he was happy, he came into work feeling good, and now it's lunchtime and he's angry and he's irritable. That dude's bipolar. That is not bipolar. So again, it's one of those mental health terms that society has a negative stigma that uses against people. So now you're kind of making that person feel negative that they have that diagnosis. And this is something people are born with. There's nothing wrong. They didn't choose schizophrenia or bipolar disorder. They were born with these conditions. So again, trying to be there, help them, support them. There is medications that can help with this and kind of stabilize that mood. There's therapy where they can help learn these skills that they need to, be more self-aware when they're going to become major depressive, when they're going to become manic. And sometimes just trying to teach people the skills of when do I need to ask for help, because we all know that's very hard to do sometimes. Substance use, the dependent abuse that leads to problems at work or home, abuse that causes damage to health. So understanding substance use, again, this could be a lot of different things. So not just opioids or alcohol. There's so many different types of substance out there. An alcohol use disorder is almost 3 times as common than any other, because people feel, it's more easily accessible. Sometimes it's more affordable. You also that stigma that, hey, it's legal, which means it's okay. It's right down the street. You can run in and get it while you're at the gas station or sometimes. But again, it's just as disabling to where, alcohol poisoning, alcohol overdose is very common. And, you also see it on TV. You eat this type of pasta, it works great with this type of wine. So we pair alcohol with so many different things. But for some people too, learning through over and over again, I can't enjoy going out with family and friends unless I have alcohol. I can't go to a sporting event without alcohol. So we pair alcohol with so many activities of life that sometimes it makes us feel like we can't enjoy those moments if we don't have that alcohol. And that could be with any type of substance. So substance use can co-occurring with mental illness. So co-occurring is you have that substance use diagnosis with the mental health diagnosis. You know, hand in hand, it could be someone has a primary diagnosis of mental health, like depression. So how are they addressing the depression? They're self-medicating with alcohol. So the more and more you use it, now they're developing dependence to it, they're abusing it, and now they have a whole nother issue they have to have that they need help with. The warning signs: increased substance use over time, increased tolerance, difficulty controlling about it. You know, you're thinking about it, you're at work and all you want to do is go home and get a drink. You wake up first thing in the morning, I just need to get through life. I need to get to the job so I can get my drink. You know, again, it's impairing your daily activities, life skills, social skills. It's impeding into your thoughts every single day. Those are huge warning signs that you're developing a substance use diagnosis because it's affecting your daily activities. So common substance, we've pretty much all heard these. There's so many more now. If you see at gas stations down the street, you've got ketamine, you got Delta-8. Those are substances that are being used and abused on a daily basis. But a lot of people think they're okay because they're being sold at a gas station, because they're being sold in the mall. So when to call 911. So again, kind of referring to overdose. Someone can't be awakened, they're unconscious, shallow breathing, bluish skin, pale, clammy, cold, continuous vomiting, blackouts. And I want to talk a little bit too. I brought a box, I forgot it in my car, but I can bring it in. But Narcan is incredibly effective for opioid overdose. So short and sweet, it is a one-time nasal spray. All you have to do is do this. You don't have to squeeze. It's very sensitive. It's triggered. It'll blow about 3 feet plus out. And that is to reverse an opioid overdose. It blocks the receptors that are in the brain. So the opioid is still in there, but it's not connecting to the receptor that's triggering the body, seizing it, stopping the mind from breathing. And again, people are protected under the Good Samaritan Act. So if you family member, friend, store, you see that person not breathing, shallow breathing, I would highly recommend Narcan. It's very effective. Usually you wait 3 to 5 minutes before you use another Narcan. Every packet actually comes with 2 Narcan. And sad to say, Narcan is starting to increase. We now have a 6 milligram and a 8 milligram. Standard like this is 4 milligram. And the reason they're having to increase the milligrams is because people are building a stronger tolerance to opioids. And with fentanyl, it's far more dangerous than standard over-the-counter opioids. And I always hear when I'm doing community events and stuff is people like, I don't need that stuff. Nobody in my house uses drugs. That's absolutely incorrect. If anything, higher chance of opioid overdoses is actually prescribed opioids. It's not that person, in an alley or something like that, intentionally trying to use drugs and shooting up. It could be you have it and you're prescribed from a surgery, your family uses it, a kid uses it. You accidentally use too much of it because you think, oh, the doctor doesn't know what they're talking about with the prescription on the bottle. I'm in a little bit more pain, so I take a little bit. Combining it with alcohol is huge. But definitely I'd recommend, everybody have some Narcan in their house. A good example is my father-in-law. Several years ago, we knew he had an opioid use and he was abusing it. And short and sweet, we found him in the bedroom one day and he was not breathing. So here I was pretty much freaking out. Like every day at work, I'm passing out Narcan. I'm trying to spread awareness. I didn't have it in my own house. And here he was with an opioid overdose. So thank God that, EMS and law enforcement were able to came. But they took him out into the ambulance and they sat out there for about 5 minutes until they drove away. So we actually thought he had passed. So come to find out later, what they were doing was they had to give him 4 Narcan from showing up to my house to getting him to an emergency room because he had been using opioid for so long, he had a strong tolerance to opioid. And then at the emergency room, they had to give him another Narcan. So again, administer Narcan, wait 3 to 5 minutes. If you're still not seeing them come back, you're still seeing that shallow breathing, giving them more Narcan. And Narcan will not hurt somebody. So if it is not opioid related, it's not like you're going to damage their brain. You're not going to affect their breathing. It does not hurt that person. It affects the opioid chemicals in the brain, and that is it. So it's definitely, like I said, with the Good Samaritan Act, it's better to try to save that person and just sitting there and staying in. So, this is definitely something we need to push out more. Everybody have it in their home. Everybody have it in their car, because you never know. I mean, you could be at the grocery store driving down the street and you see somebody collapse. I mean, it could be the heat or something like that, but if you're walking up, you're seeing these signs and symptoms and they're barely breathing. And sad to say, Marion County does have we're getting better. The numbers are dropping. So it's showing that we're doing something right in our community, but there still are high numbers of opioid use and overdoses. Not to mention in the country, there's still something we're struggling with. Alrighty, so grief and loss is something we wanted to talk about a little bit more. What was that? Oh, sorry. So again, this is something that affects everybody. We are not immune to this. We are human beings. It's obviously, we're going to have our own time, but family and friends, this is something we all experience. So what is grief? It's the reaction we experience after loss. And there is no right way to grieve. So there was a psychiatrist, I forgot her name, I think it was Koch, that developed years ago, because she actually worked in a terminally ill facility, that she kind of created 5 basic stages for grief, which mental health professionals kind of use. Is you have denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. So I do want to say again, reiterate that there is no right way to grieve. There was a graph I was trying to steal online and I couldn't do it on the PowerPoint, but it kind of showed the pattern of grief with these stages. And a lot of people think you're going to go through these stages just like that graph. That's a complete lie. You're going to be like this. Everybody's different. Every day is different. You're going to wake up one day possibly in anger, the next one's depression, then acceptance, then bargaining. There is no right way. Again, just having support systems, those people near you, supporting you, helping you, because this is something we all struggle with and we need to help. But, and another thing I like to say is I never used the term, I used it one time in therapy and I'll never do it again, but I never used the term I understand. And why I say that is because I might have a similar experience, or my clinical book has told me what this looks like and feels like. But to say you understand, you're stealing that emotion and that pain from somebody. You're trying to take ownership from them. Yes, I might know something that you've similar go through, but if I say I understand, that's saying I know exactly what you're going through, exactly what you feel. I knew that person, or I'm feeling the same way. That's not right. I don't understand. I can empathize with you. I can feel the emotions you're struggling with, but I don't know what you're going through. That is your right to go through what you're going through and heal the way you need to heal. So I don't understand, and I'm not going to take that with you. And that, using that word, I mean, that can be everything. Depression, anxiety. Sure, you might have panic attacks. You might have suffered with depression or substance use, but never sit there with an individual and say, I understand what you're going through, because they have the right to what they're feeling. It's natural. They need to have that ownership of what they're going through. And by saying I understand, you're taking that away from them. And not to mention, just like the client that I did it with, they shut down on me. And that's the last thing you want to do when somebody's finally opening up to you, is to say that one dangerous word to where they shut down with you. And then I had to start all over again, building rapport, building that confidence that they can talk to me. But the basic 5 stages of grief, you have denial. So a person cannot accept the reality of the diagnosis, the impending death, or the loss. So I think, again, that's kind of number 1 is the beginning, because it takes time to kind of seep in of what's happened. There's almost that shock and awe after something's happened, that you've been with that person every day, every week, every month for years and years, and then the reality, they're no more. It's almost impossible to comprehend initially. So taking time, especially with kids, letting them know, being honest, not trying to go around the truth, being honest with what they're going through and letting them process that, but at the same time being there, being present, and kind of similar to a panic disorder. If that person says, get off me, back off, you need to respect that. Give them a little bit of room. That might mean going a couple pews away, going into another room, giving them that time, because the last thing you want when you're going through something is, can I wipe your tears for you, touching you, I want to hug you. If you don't want it, you don't want it, and now you're starting to get pissed off or something like that. So respecting that person's boundaries. Now, again, if we're looking at days, weeks, and months, that person wants to be alone. That's a little bit different. But with the initial information, respecting what that person's going through. And at the same time, if somebody is cold and blunt, do not look at them like something's wrong. Because again, men kind of respond that internally. We hold it in. So we might be in, the male leader, head of the house or something like that. Our mind jumps into, I now have a role as a protector. So I'm going to put these emotions down and hold on to them and express them later. And if you can express them later, that's good. A lot of people don't do that. We hold them in for years, or never try to express them, and they show themselves one way or the other. But again, it's okay to be calm, cool, and collective if somebody's in that stage. Did you have a question? Yes, ma'am.
I want to say that I agree with you about the gender difference, that men do tend to hide their grief and their pain. And to give you an example, I come from a very large family, and my youngest brother was very close to my older brother. And children being resilient, we just thought, okay, he's adjusted, he's going on, with his life and everything. We didn't even know that he was suffering for a couple of years until his teacher told my mother that he wrote an essay and that he was still suffering. And children seem to bounce back, and they go back and play and so forth. The same happened with my son when my husband died of cancer. My son would get up, go to school, interact, make reasonably good grades, and every day for almost a year after his father died, he'd come home and he said, Mom, I don't feel good. And he'd go to bed. I take him to the doctor time and time again. The doctor got very insulting to me. He said, what do you want me to do? Give him, a MRI or something, whatever it is. And so finally, I was seeing a counselor, and she said, listen, bring him in and let me talk to him. And she told him, I lost my father at 8 years old. So I have a sense of what you're going through. And she said, I'll tell you what, I'm going to take you to my doctor. And because I think he thought that because his father died, and it took his father 18 months of his cancer to die, he thought that when he had a cold, or that when he was a little sick, that he was going to die. It was just a matter of time. And so she took him to his doctor. He came out of that exam relieved, because the doctor said, you had a cold, you had a virus, I can see it, but you're okay. So, different people react to grief in a different way. It takes some people a long time. And with children, we think that they're handling it well. But we really need to talk to them and listen to them.
I agree. And some people, it can be 5, 10, 20 years later. My father died in 2012, and on the outside, it didn't seem like it bothered me, to where even my mom was like, are you fine? What's wrong with you? And it didn't seem to bother me, but it wasn't until a few years ago that I actually started expressing it and trying to get that out, because I pretty much held that in for years. So again, everybody's different. It could be immediate, it could be months. There is no set time that this is how long it's going to take. And like I said, you never want people to feel isolated, something's wrong with them, you're weird, that you need to show it, or you're showing too much. Just being present, letting them know they need help. And then sometimes, yes, people need mental health professionals. And what's so great about us is we are third parties. I don't know you. I didn't grow up with you. I don't go to church with you. None of that. I'm a professionally trained third party that you can come in, let it out, flood waters, door shuts, and you go back to your life. Again, therapy is not a 1, 2, or 3 time stop shop. Some people can need weeks, months. Some people, if it's severe enough, especially with post-traumatic stress disorder, that can take years for that therapy to work. So yeah, we're all humans. We're very different. There's not one set path. I absolutely agree with you. So the second stage, anger. So past denial, blaming themselves. Again, there's not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 how it's going to work. Everybody can jump all over the place, but that anger, that this isn't right. Blaming people. People blame higher power that this person's been taken away. You hear it a lot. This was a good person. They did the right thing. How can God take this from you? And then having that anger that comes with it. We don't know our path in life, our purpose in life, the reason for it. Y'all already know it, but we're going to find out one day. But right here and right now, we're not going to know. So a lot of that comes with the anger. We want to blame somebody, just like a car accident or a shooting. We want to blame somebody. There needs to be a person that we can target and project that hate on. And some people go through that with the anger. Bargaining, want more time with that person. I'll do anything to get 30 more seconds. Depression, realization that they cannot change, that it's out of their hands. Everybody that's affected, but especially people that are very controlling, they need that set schedule. Men not having power or influence to change the reality is very painful and very depressing, that it's already done, it's already happened. There is no going back. And then acceptance, understanding, accepting reality and where you currently are. Grief can affect a person in various ways. So you have physically, loss of appetite, sudden illness, pains, stomach issues, headaches, inability to sleep. It can affect you emotionally, loneliness, worry, anxiety, fear, anger, impatience, lack of focus and concentration. Socially, withdrawing with family and friends, isolating, loss of interest. And then spiritually, feeling powerless, spiritual searching, finding meaning, anger at God, abandoning faith, or even strengthening your faith. And if any of that sounds familiar, that's almost very identical to depression, anxiety. And again, those can develop if people aren't getting the help they need, if they're not feeling heard and supported. Oh, that was not me. Taking care of yourself is so important. And again, it's probably the last thing people think about when a loved one's been taken from them is now I need to focus on myself. Self-care for a lot of people feels selfish for self-care. But again, we need it. Every day, we all need it because we're human beings. But after grief and loss, it's more important that we need self-care because we got to stay strong. We got to stay mentally and physically strong. So taking care of yourself while you're going through the grief and loss. So planning to take time out for yourself and your family. Neglecting yourself, which can lead to depression and physical illness. Taking time to go to a doctor. I had a family member that did that, lost somebody. And then afterwards, they were kind of like, what's the point? They were going through treatment for cancer. They stopped going to appointments. To an extent, they were like, what's the point of this? Because they were still struggling with what happened. Why should I take care of myself? Why should I follow up with my treatment? Why should I get the medication I need for my cancer? Again, it might sound silly, but it's very real, because why should we care about ourselves when we're caring about our family and the loved one we just lost? Eating clean. It's so easy just to go to the sugar, those foods that make you feel good, the foods that fill you up. But again, during experiences like this, it's more important to take care of yourself. Drinking water, avoiding caffeine and alcohol, because again, that affects your emotions, your thought process. Resting, taking breathing exercises is awesome for stress reduction. Feeling anxious, panicky, so using grounding activities to try to refocus on where you are right here, right now, controlling those emotions. Simple things like just walking out. So, if you're in an environment of a loved one, you're seeing the pictures, you're seeing the house, you're feeling the couch that they were once on. sometimes you got to get out of that. Going on a walk, going watching a movie, something to give your mind a little bit of break about the constant surroundings that loved one was in, to be able to get to a neutral area that it's not triggering and bringing all that back up to you. So some tips for continual bonding: talking to them, trying to get those thoughts out. You don't want to keep thoughts in. You got to get thoughts out. So either talking about them, journaling is an incredible way. I mean, just in general as therapy, I tell people if you don't feel comfortable talking about it, journal it. And I'm not saying do 1 or 2 words. I'm talking about writing until the thoughts stop. So that could be paragraphs, it could be pages. But journaling is just as effective as talking because you're getting the thoughts out, you're expressing them from beginning to ending. And then either you can save that book or some people throw it away and that thought's done. But journaling is great. Doing music, poetry, some sort of way to express feelings because, again, we're humans, we're social beings. We have to express emotion. We are never intended to hold emotions in. So if you think about just like religion and church, singing, we're expressing an emotion and a love. We need to get that stuff out. It's not meant to hold it in. Keeping photos of loved ones, including them in special events and holidays. Imagining the advice they would give. The empty chair is a great technique in therapy of, you no longer have that individual you can talk to, so you put an empty chair in a room. Let's look at that chair as if that individual is there, and then talk to them as if they're there, having full conversations. You're getting the thoughts out, you're getting the feelings out. Now, obviously, yes, it's an empty chair technique, but you're imagining that person in the chair and the emotions and feelings of being able to talk to that person. Planning on anniversaries. You don't want to. The holidays is huge for depression and isolation because if you've lost people, the holidays can be more painful because you no longer have them there. But if anything, that's why it's more important to include them in the holidays because we don't want to forget about them. You don't want to remember them. So having them in those events, enjoying food that you don't want to forget, push away everything that reminds you of that person. You want to keep that stuff that was important to them, important to you. Again, those are good memories. So keeping the good memories will bring hopefully enjoyment, pleasure to you because you're remembering the good in them. And a lot of people with terminal illness, that's difficult because they had the loved one their whole life and then they saw them for days, weeks, months, years of a terminal illness, which is slowly taking away from that person that we once knew. And it changes them to an extent depending on the diagnosis. So trying to remember the good days, the good memories, and open up signs for loved ones, different activities. It's okay to remember that person. They losing someone is literally they're being torn away from you. Once loss and grief, we are different. We are changed permanently, but not viewing that as negative and loss, but that person has such a strong influence of your life that they changed you for the rest of your life. So remembering the good and how they created you and changed you, remembering that change and not trying to push it away or forget about it. And that was just a little poem I saw online when I was trying to create this, and I thought it was pretty cool. But loss was like that. You didn't just lose a loved one. You lost your heart, your memories, your laughter, your brain, and they even took your bones. Eventually, it all comes back, but different, rearranged. So something I always like to tell people is, that old saying, time heals all wounds, is a complete lie. Time just teaches us how to live with the pain. So you're still scarred for the rest of your life, but we need to be able to live and move forward. And that scar has now taught you important lessons. It's made you who you are. Don't be ashamed of the scars. Be proud of your scars and the lessons learned. So just with grief and loss, yes, but we got to move forward. And they've made you the person who you are and that positive and strongness that you've become. So, all right, moving on. Who can help you? Sometimes people don't even know that. So many people Google these simple things because we don't know who to go to. So you have national suicide hotlines. Veterans have specifically their own veteran hotline with option 1. So that is veterans and people trained in the veteran culture. You have calling 988-211. You have a text hotline. And then with SMA Healthcare, we only have one number, is the 1-800 number. And then option actually, I need to change that. I'm sorry. Option 1 is actually the mobile crisis response team. And like I said, that's 24/7. a bachelor and or master level will answer the phone and you can talk to us. We will answer the phone within 3 rings. If for some reason we're on another call, we also have our Volusia MRT team. Our Volusia SMA team will answer the phone. And again, you're looking at a mental health professional. And other people that can help you. So reaching out to family and friends, ministers, priests, pastors, spiritual leaders, doctors, because again, they can do referrals. They can do a Baker Act if need be. Your EAP program for employment. You have the Mobile Crisis Response Team. I added up there the University of Central Florida has a really cool program that we created called the Restore Program. So it's specific cultural training that people can attend, mental health professionals. So law enforcement is the blue line, firefighters are red line, gold line is 911 operators, green line is veterans, and they're trying to expand it into more specific. So these are people that are trained in the culture of that profession. So the people in that profession now know somebody that can reach out that kind of knows a little something about what they're going through. And then, of course, you have mental health professionals, so social workers, psychologists, certified peer specialists. Y'all got questions? That's our 1-800 number, 24/7. Anybody got questions? And I do have, so this is all of our Marion County services is on this flyer. This is just a little brief of our mobile crisis response team. Again, this is all ages, 24/7, and nobody's charged anything. And if y'all wanted me to, I'll go get the box out of my truck, which is Narcan. Okay, cool.
Okay, my question is SMA the only facility that take Baker Act in Marion County?
No, ma'am. There's also the Vines,
Uh-huh.
which is a for-profit.
Okay.
Hospitals will take Baker Acts and Marchman Acts. So Baker Act is mental health, Marchman Act is for substance use.
Okay, and so the second part of that, do you guys are normally full, like no beds available when there's people that need service? I mean, is that why we're expanding? Because
There's still a demand. Now, wrong door, we will never turn anybody away. Though there was the stigma with the centers that they would say we're full and would turn away law enforcement. We do not. And last year, we actually became legislatively the central receiving facility for all Marion County. So we have to legally take every Baker Act. We will take them. And even if we are full, which we're not full, we don't use that term, we will take you. We will find you placement elsewhere if we have to.
okay,
Yes, ma'am. So
because I knew someone who had to go to Citrus County because you guys were full.
is that recent?
Yeah, like
So again,
Like
we
last month.
would have received them, but we would have transferred. Depends too. Do they want to go there? Do they have Medicare? Do they have a specific insurance? But again, no wrong door. And
Okay.
even the person has no money, we have state funding, so we're going to take them even if it's at a loss,
Okay,
because the state does fund the beds. So we will take the people. So if they want citrus, I'm not really sure. They might have requested it. And if we were full, we will still transport ourselves. No law enforcement or nothing like that. They'll transport them elsewhere. Because sometimes people want to go to the Vines. They might want to go Shands Vista and Gainesville. They might not be in Marion County a resident, but be somewhere else. So they want to be transferred closer to home. But I'm not sure what happened there.
okay. All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Any more questions? So let us give Jeremiah a round of applause for coming out here on his time off and giving us this presentation. I want to say, how many people learned something? Yes, about the services here. How many learned something about mental health, substance abuse? Yes, and how many people felt like this was very valuable to you, something that we needed? Yes, let's give them another round of applause. I think we really need it. We thank you, Jeremiah, for that. So we do, I do want him to get the Narcan. I firmly believe that people should have the Narcan, because you never know when you're going to run across someone who needs it. And like he said, even if that's not the problem, you give them the Narcan, it's not going to hurt. So it could help. So I think you should have it here. Well, I want to thank you, Jeremiah. And we want to end this with a prayer. And so I'm going to ask Dominique. Dominique is our youth ministries leader. I told you about her earlier. She wasn't here at the time, and I just saw her here. But
All righty. Everyone, can you please stand for prayer? And as we're leaving let's see. Okay, I'll have someone in the back will be holding a pan for us to collect offering. All right, bow your heads and close your eyes. Dearly Father, thank you for allowing us to be able to gather together and learn more about mental health. Help us to take this information and to be able to spread the word to others that they may use it. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Does anyone have?
Okay, you may have a seat. I have a special guest here. I think there were two of them. I don't see Dr. Bovell anymore. But we have a special young lady that is going to follow up with this session. Now that we know somewhat what mental health is, and we are experiencing it, and we know someone who has experienced it, where do we go from here? Chaos or community? We have Sister Kristen Davis-Jones here, and I would like her to share with us what she can offer and what the health ministry department can do for you as a result of knowing what we just gathered information on. So, Kristen, can you please?
That was an excellent presentation. If you're like me, you need to stand up. Let's stand up and stretch. Please stand up and get a stretch in, a good stretch in. Maybe turn to the left, turn to your right. The Lord. Okay, excellent, yes. Okay. I appreciate being here. I am a retired licensed psychologist, so my brother here gave you a gold mine of stuff. And so I really appreciate the work that this group is doing. We are also blessed to have been gifted with what's called the Nedley Depression and Anxiety Recovery Program, right? How many of you have heard of Dr. Neil Nedley? Okay, a couple of people. So Dr. Nedley is a Seventh-day Adventist internal medicine physician who developed what's called an evidence-based program. How many of you know what evidence-based means? Anybody? Yes. In other words, Mr. Jeremy wasn't just giving us information off his head. This came out of research. Dr. Nedley developed this 8-week program. I'm going to tell you about it real quickly because what had happened was his... Do you know what is one of the most important organs in your body? Okay, your heart is important. Yes. Your brain. Yes, because without your brain, your heart wouldn't know what to do. In other words. So, as an internal medicine physician, he deals with all of the organs on the inside. He said most physicians aren't paying attention to what's going on in the brain, and it is the most important organ in your body, right? Try to live life without your brain. What's going to happen? It's not life, right? You need your brain. So, what happened is his secretary, long story short, she really developed severe depression. And she was given medication after medication, and it was just not working. So, as a result of his experience with his office manager, he said, I got to do something to help her. And he developed what's called the Nedley Depression Anxiety Recovery Program. Long story short, as a result of that, because she got so well, she started telling people. And after a while, he could not see all of the people that came to him for help. So he said, I got to develop something to help all these people. And he did. And I'm going to tell you, this program is God ordained. Okay. Can I get some of my little friends to pass out something for me? Okay. You can. Okay, does everybody have one? Okay, great. If you don't have one. Okay. And while that's coming around, I got to commend Shiloh and all my sisters and brothers on your proactivity. I'm going to tell you, mental health, let's see, I had a 25 plus year career as a psychologist. When I started, do you think that Jeremy or even me would be standing in a Seventh-day Adventist church talking about anxiety and depression? No. So I want to commend you as a church family, as a community, for the phenomenal job that you're doing. Because today, when we have young people who haven't really begun to enjoy life, thinking it's not worth it, we have to do something. Not just young people, big people, seasoned citizens, all of us. So I want to commend you as a church body. Okay, real quickly. So the Nedley Depression Recovery Program, if we hadn't been sitting so long, I'll show you a clip, but maybe we'll do that another time. Just real quickly, it is an 8-week program. And on the right side of the page, you can see the things that are going to be addressed in this program. How to improve your brain, lifestyle treatments for depression and recovery. Why is lifestyle important? Anybody? lifestyle is all about who we are and what we do, right? And the good thing is, medication has been shown. If you, um, knowing what I know about medication, you eventually have to keep taking more and more and more, right? It is what we call, the physician, the psychiatrist who prescribes it wants to make sure it will be effective but not do harm. And the thing that Dr. Nedley discovered is, yes, medication can be helpful, but oftentimes you have to keep adding more and more and more. So he said there's got to be another way. And so he's a physician. He understands how medicine works. He said lifestyle is one of the major ways to recover, right? Notice the word recover. What does that mean? If you recover from something, do you still have it? No. No, when you recover from something, that means you do not have it. And so his program is designed to use lifestyle treatment for depression and anxiety. So we learn about, how many of you drive? Okay, I see quite a few drivers. How many of you, when you go up to the gas station, okay, 2 more minutes. How many of you, when you drive up to the gas station, you put sand in your gas tank? And I don't see any hands. How many of you put the best gas you can afford to put in your gas tank? Okay, I see a bunch of hands. So, nutrition for the brain is like putting the best premium gas in your car. And you know what? You're much more valuable than any car. So God wants you to put the best nutrition, and Nedley talks about that. How thinking can defeat depression and anxiety. Do you know that what you think drives depression and anxiety? And so we learn exactly how to combat negative thinking so that you don't experience depression and anxiety. Making and staying with positive lifestyle choices, right? Sometimes we can start something, but then those old bad habits keep coming back. So how do you overcome that? How many of you are too blessed to be stressed? Okay, stress, right? And how many of you know that all stress is not bad stress? There's some stress that's really helpful. And then Jeremy talked about overcoming loss. That last point was a little concerning for me as an Adventist for what we know, right? We see butterflies, that's not our loved one, right? We can thank God, right? But our loved one is resting till Jesus comes. Praise God, right? But overcoming loss based on what we believe from the Word of God and what He said. Okay. And enhancing frontal lobe function. Why is your frontal lobe important? That's where you think and make decisions and choices. And guess what is impacting our frontal lobes? You know, those things that we have, and that's now become another part of our hand. And at night, we go looking at it, right? Okay, so how many of you would be interested in, you don't have to have depression and anxiety. As a psychologist, I have found this program excellent because it's helping me to be the best person God wants me to be, right? And I can help somebody who might be struggling because I've got some tools. That's what this will give us. How many of you would be interested in something like that? Okay, either in person or via Zoom. Okay. So what I'm gonna ask Ann to do is collect the names, etc., and then we will schedule another time to actually show what it is you'll be addressing in those 8 weeks and answer questions, and I'll tell you about the resources that you get because there's a kit and the investment that you're making, right? Nothing worth having in life really is free, right? Jesus paid it all. It cost him something. So we'll talk about all that at another time. Questions? Any questions? Okay, take a look at this, and this will give you a heads up, and then we'll come back and we can show.
Great. Thank you so much, Kristen. Thank you so much. I know we've been sitting for 6 hours, and I appreciate everyone's time and patience. So I will be doing another coming back with more information so that we can forge forward. Okay? It's a process, but know that we have heard and we want to fill the need. We've heard the concern, and we're here. So thank you all again so much. I guess we've done the prayer. Dominique said the prayer.
Yes. Any